Close your eyes for a second and imagine biting into something so sweet, so thick, so golden, that your brain short-circuits trying to figure out what it is. It tastes like honey, dense, slow-moving caramel honey, the kind that coats the back of your tongue and spreads forward like warm syrup on a cold morning. Except, it is not honey. No bees produced it. No hive was robbed. No beekeeper suited up, lit a smoker, or spent $600 on startup gear. No one was stung. Nothing was processed. This sweetness grew quietly on a bush, in dry dirt, in a forgotten backyard in New Mexico, a backyard that had not been watered since its previous owner passed away. No irrigation, no pesticide, no pruning, no fertilizer, no human attention of any kind, for decades. And that bush, it is still standing, still producing, still dropping 80 pounds of honey-flavored fruit every single autumn. Meanwhile, just down the road, a professional beekeeper just lost 40% of his colony, again, to mites and chemical exposure. The fruit responsible for all of this is called the jujube, botanical name Ziziphus jujuba, known across Asia as the honey date, eaten by 2 billion people, cultivated for over 5,000 years, the fourth most grown fruit tree on the entire planet Earth. There are more jujube trees on Earth than apple trees. Read that again. More jujubes than apples. More jujubes than pears, plums, and cherries combined. The fourth most common fruit in the world. And you have probably never seen one, never tasted one. You might not even be able to spell the name. This is not a coincidence. This is a system working exactly as it was designed, keeping you dependent on a $20 billion honey industry, a $300 billion processed sugar industry, and a $50 billion fruit industry, when a bush costing $12 could quietly replace all three for the next 60 years, starting the day you planted. Before we go any further, if what you are about to hear makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about food, sweeteners, and the agriculture industry, hit subscribe and tap the bell. This channel exists to surface the knowledge that billion-dollar industries need you to never find. Share this with someone who deserves to know. Let us get into it. Part 1. The Man Who Walked Across China. In 1908, a USDA plant explorer named Frank Meyer laced up his boots and walked, literally walked, 1,800 miles across northern China. He was collecting plants for the United States government. He crossed desert terrain where summer heat exceeded 110 degrees. He climbed mountain passes at 12,000 feet where the air shredded his lungs. He slept in vermin-infested guest houses. He caught diseases that would eventually take his life. He did all of this because the USDA needed someone willing to go find plants that could rewrite American agriculture. Frank Meyer was that man, and he was right about what he found. The soybeans he brought back became a $60 billion American industry. The Chinese pistache he shipped to Washington now fills millions of American landscapes. Disease-resistant peach rootstocks he discovered still anchor California's peach industry today. But one plant obsessed him more than any other. In his own field notes, Frank Meyer wrote that the jujube was the most important fruit tree in northern China. Not one of the most important, the most important. He documented entire villages built around jujube trees. He watched families pack jujubes into clay jars to eat through harsh winters as a primary calorie source. He watched children eat jujubes the way American kids eat candy, except the jujube was fueling their bodies with iron, vitamin C, and complex carbohydrates, while American candy was rotting teeth. Meyer shipped hundreds of jujube varieties back to Washington with detailed cultivation notes. He pleaded with the USDA to establish jujube orchards across the American South and Southwest, regions climatically identical to the jujube's native range in northern China. Early results were extraordinary. A fruit tree that survived Texas drought with zero irrigation. Sweet, beautiful fruit produced with zero chemical sprays. Farmers who tried it sent enthusiastic reports back to Washington. A small jujube research program was quietly established at a USDA station in Chico, California. Then the money stopped. The apple lobby needed funding. The peach industry needed breeding programs. The citrus lobby wanted pest management research. Every established fruit industry with political connections pointed research dollars toward themselves and away from a crop that threatened to make their spray-dependent, input-heavy, short-lived orchards look embarrassingly obsolete. The USDA published a handful of jujube bulletins between 1920 and 1950. Then the publication stopped. The research station collection was neglected. Rare varieties that Frank Meyer had risked his life to collect died from lack of basic watering. Not disease, not pests, neglect. A government pouring billions into apple and citrus subsidies could not fund one technician to water the Jujube collection. Meyer himself drowned in the Yangtze River in 1918 at age 43 under circumstances that were never fully explained. Some historians believe he was murdered. The case was never solved. The man who walked across China to bring America its most valuable fruit never lived to see it planted at scale, and the fruit he died collecting is still virtually unknown in the country he spent his life serving. Part 2. What Frank Meyer knew. Here is what the food industry needed you to never discover about this fruit. When a jujube dries naturally on the branch, no processing, no added sugar, no machinery, something remarkable happens. The moisture drops from 80% down to under 20%. The sugars concentrate. The flesh transforms from a crisp apple-like texture into something dense, chewy, and caramel-rich. The flavor becomes a collision of dates, honey, and caramel apple, with subtle notes of cinnamon underneath. Nutritionally, a 100-gram serving of dried jujube delivers 79 grams of carbohydrates for immediate energy, 250 to 300 calories, 69 milligrams of vitamin C, nearly a full day's requirement, 1.2 milligrams of iron, 250 milligrams of potassium, and a complex network of bioactive compounds that Chinese medicine has relied on for 5 millennia. Honey contains 82 grams of sugar per 100 grams. Jujube contains 79 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams, but with fiber, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that honey simply does not carry. Honey offers sweetness and antimicrobial properties. Jujube offers equivalent sweetness, plus nutrition, plus documented medicinal compounds. Jujube is not a honey substitute. It is a step forward. Now consider what this actually means economically. One healthy bee colony produces 30 to 60 pounds of surplus honey per year under ideal conditions. Setup costs $200 to $400. It requires specialized knowledge, regular inspections, queen replacement, disease management, and ongoing vigilance. Varroa destructor mites kill 40 to 50% of managed bee colonies in the United States every year. Colony collapse disorder has devastated commercial beekeeping for 2 decades. The American bee population has dropped 60% since 1947. Beekeeping is getting harder, more expensive, and more unpredictable every single season. And here's the part that should make you angry. 76% of honey sold in American grocery stores has been found adulterated with corn syrup or rice syrup. Food Safety News confirmed this through independent testing. 3 out of 4 jars of honey on your shelf may not be honey hell. The term honey laundering has entered the food safety vocabulary. Chinese honey, which dominates global supply, is routinely rerouted through third countries to dodge tariffs and hide its origin. The honey in that bear-shaped gall may have traveled through 3 countries and 2 shell companies before you picked it up. In 2018, the European Commission tested 320 imported honey samples. Nearly half were fraudulent. You are paying $12 a jar for flavored corn syrup, while a bush producing genuine, unadulterated natural sweetness sits in a nursery catalog for $12 a plant.
Here's what makes the suppression of jujube in America unlike anything else this channel has covered. It was never banned, never criminalized, no law was written against it. The mechanism was more elegant and more effective than any legislation. It was simply never introduced to the supply chain. American supermarkets carry approximately 400 produce items. Jujube is not among them. Not because consumers would reject it, the flavor alone would convert any skeptic within seconds of a first bite, but because no commercial jujube supply chain exists in America. No orchard network, no distribution infrastructure, no packaging line, no shelf space allocation, no UPC code in the grocery database. The fruit that 2 billion people eat daily does not exist in the American food system. Not because it cannot grow here. USDA hardiness zones 6 through 10 cover the jujube's ideal growing range, encompassing the majority of the continental United States. It grows better in Texas than in Beijing. It grows better in Georgia than in Shandong province. The American South and Southwest are arguably the finest jujube growing climate on the planet. But building a supply chain requires investment. Investment follows profit projections. Profit projections follow market analysis. And market analysis for jujube reveals a product with a 60-year productive lifespan, 0 chemical input requirements, 0 pest management costs, and a plant that any homeowner can grow without purchasing a single agricultural product for the remainder of their life. No investor funds that analysis. No corporation builds that supply chain. No board of directors approves a product that eliminates its own customer after one $12 transaction. The American grocery model is built on perishability. Strawberries that expire in days, blueberries that mold in a week, peaches that require 20 spray applications and a coast-to-coast cold chain. The entire architecture of American food retail, from controlled atmosphere storage to produce misting systems to expiration date labeling, exists to profit from fragility, to ensure you return to the store next Tuesday to replace what you consumed this week. The jujube bush is permanence, and permanence is an existential threat to every business model built on perishability. Meanwhile, in China,
The jujube industry generates $9 billion annually from a single fruit species. China cultivates over 700 named varieties, some cherry-sized, some apple-sized, some bred for August harvest, some for November, some for fresh eating, some for drying, some for juice, some for medicinal extraction. The genetic diversity rivals the apple or grape world. America grows fewer than 1,000 acres of commercial jujube. China grows 5 million. That is not a market failure. That is a market decision, made by industries that cannot profit from a fruit that renders their products unnecessary. Part 4. The honest part. What jujube cannot do. Now I need to be straight with you, because hype without honesty is just advertising dressed up as information. Jujube is not a perfect honey replacement in every application. Fresh jujube tastes like a crisp, mildly sweet apple. The honey-like sweetness only fully emerges after drying, when the fruit is dried on the branch and the sugars concentrate. If you want that golden, thick sweetness, you need dried jujube, not fresh. Jujube does not produce a liquid sweetener the way honey does. You cannot drizzle it straight from a jar. You can blend dried jujube into a paste, syrup, or butter that functions similarly. Chinese cooks have done this for thousands of years using basic kitchen tools, but it requires a preparation step that opening a honey jar does not. Climate matters too. While jujube survives extreme heat and cold, the fruit needs long, hot summers to fully ripen and develop maximum sugar content. In Zone 5 and below, fruit may not fully ripen before frost. In cool, wet climates like the Pacific Northwest, sugar development can be insufficient for ideal drying. The plant grows almost everywhere. The premium fruit quality peaks in hot, dry summers. Cross-pollination improves yield. Most varieties are partially self-fertile, but planting 2 or more varieties significantly increases production. A single bush will produce, but a pair will produce dramatically more. None of this changes the fundamental calculation. A $12 to $25 plant requiring 0 chemical inputs, 0 pest management costs, and producing 40 to 100 pounds of food annually for 60 to 100 years is one of the most efficient investments in long-term food security available to any homeowner, gardener, or small-scale farmer in America today. Bell, closing CTA, strong call to action. Here is your assignment. This week, find one jujube nursery within your region, look up which varieties thrive in your USDA hardiness zone, and seriously consider what it would mean to plant something that begins paying you back in year 2 and keeps paying you back for the next 6 decades without asking for anything in return. This is not a trend. This is not a health fad. This is a fruit that 5,000 years of human civilization have quietly relied on, and that the modern food industry has spent a century quietly burying. Frank Meyer walked 1,800 miles to bring this to America. He did not survive to see it planted. The least we can do is plant it. If this video shifted something, hit the subscribe button.